All right, guys. This message, excited about it. I know it's going to be a blessing to somebody. And I just want to say, whoever this may be for, I'm very excited for you. You're about to come up on a very exciting time in your life. You have good things coming in store for you, but it's not going to be so much the things that are coming in store for you, the progress that you're going to make. The thing that you're probably going to enjoy the most is the people or the person that you're about to get ready to enjoy those things with, because it's definitely a time for a divine connection for you. It's as if someone is going to come into your life or you'll come into theirs and there'll be an instant connection, and you'll think to yourself, where have you been all my life? And so that's the name of this sermon. Where have you been all my life? You'll get close to somebody that makes you think, man, I wish I had known you a long time ago. I wish we had already became friends years ago. Why are we just now meeting up? We really could have benefited each other a long time ago. I mean, I'm glad you're here now, but I really wish I had already known you. A lot of problems would have been solved a long time ago. You could have solved mine. I could have solved yours. Both of us could have avoided a lot of serious problems and mistakes and bumps in the road and detours and just all kinds of stuff. Where in the world have you been? So that's what this is about. And if you're following along in the word, I'm going to start out in Matthew chapter 2. Before I get into that, though, while y'all are going there, let me just kind of help open this message up just a little bit more. As I was getting ready for this sermon, it kind of made me think of something that happened some years ago. I was somewhere, I was at some store, I believe it was, just out walking in some store looking around. And you know how sometimes you may be in a public place and maybe you're just kind of walking like at a store or at a mall or just somewhere where there's plenty of people and you're just walking and you're minding your own business and you're not trying to eavesdrop on anybody's conversation, but as you're walking you may just so happen to hear somebody say something, and it's like you catch the weirdest part of their conversation. You know what I mean? You just so happen to hear something and you're just like, what? You don't say it to them, but you're just thinking to yourself, what in the world? And so anyway, I was just walking, and all of a sudden, like, there was this guy, he was talking to this woman, and as I walked by, I just hear him go, girl, where have you been all my life? Some woman he was trying to mac on, girl, where have you been all my life? Just the way he said it was just so funny. He was so, girl, where have you been all my life? But that's what it made me think of getting ready for this message when I heard that guy say that. It's like somebody listening, you're going to have a moment like that where you're just going to have that suddenly moment out of nowhere where you're just going to be saying stuff like, where have you been all my life? Why are we just now getting to know each other? You may be saying, well, what is this connection for? It depends on exactly what it is that you need. And God knows your needs and your wants. So, for example, just to throw some stuff out there, maybe you just need a good friend. Maybe you've had a bad record of not making very good friends. You've made friends, but they're not actually good, genuine friends. I'll put it that way. You haven't made very many genuine friends. In other words, you have not done a good job. You've made a poor job of selecting those that you have gotten close to. And so it's almost like God is moving people out of the way to put people in your path, the right people, so that when you do get close to them, it's genuine on both ends and you guys can really benefit each other. You'll have plenty of things in common and you'll have each other's back and all kinds of things, and you'll be so thankful and grateful that you have people that you know really are for you and not possibly secretly against you. Or maybe they're just not good people to be friends with or to be close with in general. Not so much that they have it out for you. Maybe you've just had people in the past that they're just not really good to anybody that they get close to. They're just not very caring people. They're just already naturally users and manipulators and liars and all that, and they never have good intentions with anybody. You know what I mean? So maybe that's what it is, a good connection with good divine friends, true friends in the Lord. Or maybe it's a romantic connection. Maybe you're going to for real be like that guy in the store that was looking at that woman talking about, girl, where have you been all my life? Maybe it's that, or maybe it's something like this. Maybe you guys are going to come together for some amazing projects. For example, maybe you're somebody who you like to do music, but maybe you need a producer to kind of help solidify your work, your craft. Or maybe you need a good legit DJ to put your stuff out there and to help promote it. Or maybe you want to take a step further from the music and do visuals, but you don't know how in the world to put music videos together. So maybe you need somebody to come in and help you learn some things or make a video for you or something like that. Or maybe you're someone who finally, after all these years, you've decided, I know what I want to do with my life. I want to start my own business, but I don't know where in the world to begin. I don't know where the location would even be. And maybe you just need the right person to come along who owns some land or owns a building, and they're ready to sell it or rent it out or give it away or whatever. Or simply somebody that can help you start your foundation or your company or whatever from the ground up. And maybe they know all the ins and outs and all the rules and regulations of how it goes, and they will be perfect to help you with your vision. Maybe you're somebody who you're a writer, and maybe you've always wanted to write a book, but maybe you don't know anything about getting a publisher. Or maybe you've contacted publishers before, but when they looked at your writings, they just didn't get it, and they felt like you weren't really going to go anywhere because you wrote about things that people weren't interested in, or it was a subject that didn't seem to sell well. But you know in your heart of hearts, you've got some writings that are gold, and you know if promoted the right way, you would be making mega money right now. But maybe you just need that right person to come along, or that right publisher to come along that actually gets what you have to say and what you have to write, and they're willing to put it out there, and they're willing to give you a great deal on it because they know it's gonna be a success. Maybe that's what you need. Or maybe you're someone that you want to go out of the country. Maybe you want to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and preach the gospels to the nations. But maybe you're broke as all get out, and maybe you just need somebody to come along and finance your travels, your missions. Maybe it's things like that. I don't know what it is exactly, but you're going to have somebody come along that's gonna just be just perfect. I mean, just it's just gonna be like, man, I wish I had known you. Why am I just now meeting you? You're gonna be wishing this had taken off a long time ago. Matter of fact, I kind of had a moment like that a couple of months ago, years ago, back in like 2009. I started working at this particular job, and I was there for many years. But anyway, one of the guys that I had worked with in my first few years of working there, I worked with him, and he had this girlfriend, and he always talked about her all the time and blah, blah, blah. And I think for a while she even worked at the same place we worked at, just in a different area of the building. But anyway, since our paths seemed to, you would think they would have crossed at some point. Our paths would have crossed at some point to where we would have made friends. We never really made friends. I mean, she even added me as a friend on Facebook, but even still, we never actually really talked or hung out or anything. So from that year, 2009, fast forwarding all the way to this year, 2017, And just a couple of months ago, she had posted something on Facebook, and I had messaged her asking her about it. And so she's explaining some things. And anyway, in the process, we actually just talk just as friends, and we're getting to catch up from from years of knowing each other but not actually knowing each other. And it was just crazy because listening to the stuff that she was saying and me telling her stuff about myself, it was funny because it was like she had just got done going through some things that I had already overcame years ago, and I was just now overcoming some things that she had already been through. So comparing and contrasting, I'm thinking, we really should have just became friends a long time ago. I mean, we knew each other. We had, somebody in common, the guy that I worked with. We should have already been friends. And if we had been, we definitely could have helped each other out through these hard times, because we've gone through so many similar things that we've both felt other people just didn't understand us on, but we would have understood each other. So I'm sitting there thinking, sitting there on the phone talking with her like, man, we should have just been friends years ago. Like, why why are we just now connecting? It was weird. And I had even mentioned it on Facebook. I was just like, man, just became friends with somebody I should already became friends with years ago. And then she even commented and was like, yeah, I agree. I was just thinking the same thing. So it was just the weirdest thing. But I'm simply saying, whoever needs this, it's coming. It's coming. But I do got to warn you of something. I got to warn you of what the enemy is going to try to do. But he cannot be successful unless you simply let him. That's all there is to it. That's the good news about this. Well, the other good news besides the divine connection is the fact that really the enemy really can't do anything to stop it unless you or the person that you're connecting with allows the nonsense to cause a split in the connection. It's that simple. All you have to do is not take heed to what the enemy has to say, and that's it. He can't stop you unless you allow it. So what do I mean? Matthew chapter 2, at the beginning it says this: now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, and thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child. When ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy it. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. We know this story. We've heard it many times, especially during Christmas time when people are talking about the birth of Jesus. We've heard it many times, and we see people put up their nativity scenes, and you know how it is. They've got the image of Mary and Joseph and little baby Jesus and the barnyard animals and the three wise men and da 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 da. And they tell the story of the birth of Jesus, and they go on to say that there were wise men traveling about, and they came bearing gifts for Jesus. And it's all sweet and wonderful and happy, many times leaving out the fact that these wise men that were seeking out Jesus were sent his way by a man, a king named Herod, who secretly actually wanted Jesus killed. We leave that part out many times because it, it kind of like darkens the mood a little bit, right? But that's the reality of it. Yes, they came bearing gifts, but they didn't realize that the one who sent them had a hidden agenda. Herod was a king. He was a ruler. He seemed to have everything going for him, but rumors are out. Word is out that there's about to be a baby born by the name of Jesus, and it's been prophesied that he's going to be the ruler of God's people. He's going to be a king, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, King of the Jews, all these other names called Emmanuel, God with us, this, that, and the other. Herod's not too happy about that because he looks at that as a threat to him and his own personal rulership. He's looking at it as, well, there ain't room enough for the both of us to be king. So the last thing he wants to hear is, while he's king, another one's being born who's supposed to overshadow him, if you will. And he don't want the spotlight taken off of him. And so with that said, he has decided to not follow Jesus. Kind of like that song, I have decided to follow Jesus. He's like, no, I've decided not to. How about no? That's what he's thinking. He's thinking, how about no? How about I not follow him? How about I get rid of him ASAP? So that's what's going on in his mind. But he knows he's got to be careful how he goes about this. He don't want anybody getting mad knowing what he's up to, so he sends some people out to do the dirty work. He sends out these wise men to go and seek him out, and he tells the wise men, when you find him, let me know where this baby Jesus is so I can go and worship him with you. But really, he doesn't want to worship. He wants to murder. And it's kind of funny because, well, they want to go and worship, but he wants to bring death. Herod wants to bring death to the one who comes to earth to bring us life and life more abundant. That really could be a sermon by itself. That shows you who is the better king anyway, Jesus or Herod. Are you going to choose Jesus, the one who wants you to have life and life more abundant, or do you want to choose the king who wants to bring death to the one that wants to bring you life? But anyway, so he wants him taken out. And so the wise men, they find Jesus. Now let me pause and say this. Why are they called wise men? When we think of wise, we think of smart, we think of intelligent. Somebody who's much more smart than others. That's one way that some people would put it. Someone who's very wise, and a lot of times if we come across a person who is young but very, very smart, we'll say you're very wise for your age, right? You hear people say that. They're just saying that they feel like you're smart beyond your years. That's all they're really saying. And so that's what we think of when we think of wise, but here they mean a little bit more to it than just how we look at it. We look at it more as like an overall general intelligence, but when someone was called a wise man, it was usually someone who they were very smart and developed, but in certain arts or in certain studies of particular things. So, for example, wise men comes from magi or magos, based on whether or not it's singular or plural. But what it means is this: men who were teachers, priests, physicians, astrologers, that's the key one, seers, interpreters of dreams, augurs, soothsayers, and sorcerers. So people who were very, very advanced in certain things or certain arts or things like that. So these particular wise men were more along of astrologers. They were people who they studied the stars and they looked at the constellations and they looked at things in the sky and tried to catch patterns and tried to understand current events and used what they saw in the skies to predict future events. That's what they did. And if you became really good at it, you were a wise man. And so you could be dumb in anything else, but you didn't even have to really have common sense. But if you were good at something like this, something peculiar, something that a lot of people couldn't really get down, you were a wise man. And so that's what these particular men were about. That's what they were saying. Hey, there's this star that's going to be on the sky on this particular night, and if we would but just follow it, over time we'll see where the star is at, and the place that the star is hovering over, down low underneath it, that's where the baby Jesus is going to be when he's born. And so that's what they've got in their mind, and they set out on this journey, and they're watching out for this star, and they see the star, and right under it they see Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus. And so they go up to Jesus, and they're looking, and they're oohing and eyeing, and they're having their moment, and they worship, and they present the gifts that they have. And the gifts are gold, myrrh, and frankincense. And so they present these gifts, and they have their moment. But what ends up happening is God reveals to the wise men in a dream that they must not return to Herod. So God has given them the 411. He's given them the info on this Herod guy, and he's just like, listen, don't go back to him. It's not gonna be good. Just don't go talk to him. Don't say goodbye, farewell. Just don't. So not only do they not go back to him, but they even left out a different way from the direction they came into this place. They didn't even go backwards. They just took a whole nother route. They just made up some other way out. Like, no, let's just go on around. Even if we have to take the long way around, we're not going back to Herod. We don't want to risk even coming face to face with this guy anymore, because he's probably going to do us in because we didn't do Jesus in. So that happens, and then God informs Mary and Joseph, hey, y'all got to get out of here, flee to Egypt, and you can come back after, Herod's time is up. So here's what I'm getting at, some points. First off, let me say this. These men were called the wise men because they were wise by the standards of man at this time. But it's interesting how they have an encounter with the Lord, and they are informed some things, And now they have made a wise decision. See, they were led to make a not so wise decision, even though they were considered wise. But now that they have been informed by the all-knowing God, who is wise of all things, now they really are wise men. They have become the wisest of them all. And I just want to say this. To me, this is a reminder that no matter how smart you are, no matter how intelligent people say you are, no matter how wise or full of knowledge you know yourself to be, at the end of the day, you still need God, because there are things that God knows that you just will not know unless God reveals it to you. I'm sorry, you can be considered a genius by man's standards, and that's great. That's wonderful. That's amazing. You can be a rocket scientist, but you still need God, because there will be times in life where the only person, the only one that can help you, the only one that has all the answers, listen, science and medicine is great. Technology is wonderful. I love it. But there are even times in some people's lives where that won't even help them. Ask the woman with the issue of blood. Listen to me. There are times when you still need God. He has the answers when you simply do not have them. And so they were considered wise, but now they really are wise. Not just by man's standards. Now they've got some info from the Lord. And it ended up being the best decision of their life based off of that little info God gave them. Because to not hear from the Lord would have meant the possibility of Herod reaching Jesus. And that would have just ruined the whole plan that God had set out. So we see that one moment with the Lord changed history. Point being, the fact that they were already considered wise by man's standards was irrelevant. Moving on to the next point. Next point I want to make is this. As I said, they came bearing gifts, gold, myrrh, and frankincense. It's believed, check this out, it's believed by many that the total value of the gold and materials given over from the wise men to Jesus and his family ended up being enough financial aid to help them flee from where they were to the country of Egypt. It helped them finance their stay there, and it helped them finance the trip back. So what we see here is this. This moment was a divine moment. It was a divine connection. It was a divine exchange. Now, people debate whether or not it really was 3 wise men, or if there was more or less. But let's go with the tradition just for the sake of this message. 3 wise men, and then 3 people of this family: Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. Right? So 3 and 3, and they're making a divine connection, and they're benefiting each other, because they've given over the gifts that ended up helping them with their travels and their life, their livelihood. And they have given the wise men an enlightening moment. It's thanks to them, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, that these wise men, who were wise by men's standards, really actually became enlightened for real. They had some real wisdom. They had an encounter with the Lord. They had this experience where they got to see the baby Jesus. They worshiped the Lord, and they experienced God, heard from him in their dream, and they did not go back to the one who was using them to cause all hell to break loose. So they all benefited from each other. They all benefited from that special moment of that divine connection. So I'm simply saying to you this. When this connection happens, and you get with the right person or the right people for whatever it is that y'all need to be connected for, to help each other out, First of all, it's beneficial to all parties. It's all good. God's in it. It's great. But you must know, here's the warning, you must know that there will be a Herod involved. And what I mean is this. Whoever this is for, some of you, you may be in the position of the wise men, and some of you may be in the position of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. And what I mean is this. If you are in the position of the wise men, you may be attached to someone who will end up being a Herod, but you don't see it now. Oh boy. In other words, kind of like how in the story Herod was all cool and was all like, oh, find out where he is so I can come worship. But really on the inside, he had that agenda. You'll be attached to someone that, they're all fine and cool and everything. But when they see this connection really starting to come together and starting to unravel, it's almost like they'll unravel and reveal their true colors. They'll show how they really feel. And what they may do is they may talk negatively to you about the Mary, Joseph, and Jesus you're connected with. They'll have all types of bad things to say, but in reality, the issue is their own jealousy or their own insecurities, or maybe that Herod has some old vengeance in him, or maybe they have some old problem that was not resolved with the Mary, Joseph, Jesus that is old and don't matter no more, and it was something that happened back in 1802, and you know what I mean? They're mad about something that was a misunderstanding, and it was so long ago it don't matter no more, and whatever. But whatever it is, they've got their own little issue with the Mary, Joseph, Jesus that you're connecting to. And so they're going to have something to say to you about it, to try to cut off the connection, to try to make you feel some type of way about it, to make you feel like this connection is a bad idea. But it's just them. It's not anything with you, and it's not anything with them, and it's not anything with the connection y'all have. It's just them. It's just the Herod. It's just them. So what I'm saying to you is it's almost like this. It's kind of like what I was talking about a couple of sermons ago when I was talking about Job. Close to the end of the sermon, I was talking about Job from the book of Job and all that he had went through. And the devil had said to God, well, he's going to curse you. He's good now and he loves you now because everything in his life is going good. But I guarantee you let bad stuff happen to him. Calamity comes his way. His health declines. He's going to curse you. And the devil did all he could to try to get Job to curse God. But check this out. If you remember, there was a moment in the story where Job's own wife said to him, why don't you just curse God? His wife said this to him, not just some stranger, not Jenny from the block, right? Not J-Lo, no. But of all people, it was the one closest to him, his own wife. And a while back when I was talking about Job in a sermon, probably months ago, I was explaining, hey, it don't take a rocket scientist to see that the enemy was using his wife. The devil had entered in, kind of like how he had entered into Judas when he came up against Jesus. It was like he had entered into her and was speaking through her to Job to get what he wanted out of him, which was for him to open his mouth and curse God. It was almost like the devil had a little bet going on in his mind. He was like, oh, well, I bet you Job is going to curse you. And he was trying to use someone close to Job to get it out of him. And so it's similar with Herod. The enemy, and that's all it is the enemy. It's not that it might not even be that this person is a bad person. It's really not the person. We're not warring against flesh and blood. Oh my goodness. It's the enemy using this person as a Herod to try to stop the connection, because this connection means prosperity, and there's something about the prosperity of that Jesus, Mary, Joseph you're connected with that they don't like because of their own jealousy and their own issues, but it's them. Listen, you got to just pray for them. You got to let them deal with their own issues. But you can't stop your connection, your divine connection, and your process and progress just because your Herod has their own personal little issues. Their issues have nothing to do with you. They may try to make it be about you or try to get you involved, but it's not about you. It's about them, and that's just it. That's all there is to it. You can't get wrapped up in their own little pity party or whatever they got going on. You can't do it. Because the enemy is only using them because you're cool with them to try to talk you out of something great just because they got their own little thoughts and opinions about your Mary, Joseph, Jesus over there. And it's totally irrelevant, and it's a distraction, and it's a detour. So just don't even listen, because you will miss out on some amazing experiences with the Lord because of your connections with the Mary, Joseph, Jesus, just like how the wise men were enlightened because of their experience with the Lord. Now, here's the flip side of it. As I said, some of you may be more in the position of Mary, Joseph, Jesus, and you're fixing to have your connection with your wise men, so to speak, or women, whatever. And so, as the connection unfolds, you may see that your wise people, I'll just put it that way, that you're connected with, they have a Herod in their life. And you may get to a point where you might say, well, maybe I should just leave these people alone. Maybe I don't need to, get all involved and get close with them and try to start all these adventures and projects with these people, because the more I get close to them, the more that Herod over there is going to get mad, and I don't want to interfere in their friendship or their relationship or what they got going. I don't want to. No, don't think that way. Do not look at it that way. Don't look at it as, well, I better not get close to this person because I don't want them to have to be into it all the time with that Herod that's always got something to say about me. It don't matter who it is. It don't matter if your wise person has an ex that's mad that you're in the picture because you might actually treat this person right. It doesn't matter if it's a parent of the person that you're connected to, even though the person you're connected to is grown and can make their own decisions now and can live the life that they want to live now. It don't matter if it's somebody from the job that's mad about this or that. It don't matter who the Herod is. It's irrelevant. Don't sit there and worry and be like, I don't want to come in between whatever they got going on. No, don't worry about it. Don't even. You don't need to be concerned with the Herod. They don't need to be concerned with the Herod. It's as simple as that. Listen, what is coming your way, the enemy cannot stop it himself. He can't. The only way it can be stopped is simply if you allow it. It's that simple. If you give in to what the enemy has to say, then you'll slow down the process. All you got to do is not care. That's it. Guys, it's the simplest thing. Just don't care. It's that simple. Just don't care. Okay. So, real quick, last couple of spots I'm going to take you to, and I'm going to wrap this up. Okay, so again, just to give you words of encouragement on not giving in to what the enemy has to say, whether it be just talking trash or threats or trying to guilt you for the connection or trying to make you feel, whatever. Because let me say this, and I really feel like I need to say this because it's just been on my mind just while getting ready for this sermon. maybe one of the things, and I guess maybe it'll help somebody if I say this, maybe whoever it is that may be in the position of the wise man position, if that's how you want to put it, maybe your Herod might say something to you along the lines of, maybe they're not going to tell you what they think or what they feel, but maybe they're going to point out what other people may think or feel. So maybe the Herod may try to say to you, well, if you start hanging out with that person, people are going to think blah, 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 blah. And people are going to say da, 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 da. And then there's going to be rumors spreading. And then people are going to think da, 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 da. You don't want people to think this. You don't want people to say this stuff about you. You don't want people to think blah. Shut it down. That's all I've got to say to you. Shut it down. Don't listen to it. It don't matter how they feel or what they feel. Other people are going to feel it. Oh gosh. It doesn't matter. Okay. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 4 and 5. And this lines up with what I was just talking about. It says this: for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Remember I said we're not coming up against flesh and blood. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations. There's the key phrase, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God. Let me pause there before I even finish this, because I got to break this one down. Casting down imaginations. When the Herod starts talking and starts putting these thoughts into your head that's supposed to make you be kind of fearful of what the future may hold. Well, I believe that the tarot cards and the palm readings are going to say that your future is going to be bad if you try to have a connection with this person. Quit listening to that. just shut it out. But when these thoughts and these imaginations that the Herod tries to put into you, or really the enemy, the adversary of your soul, the devil, tries to put into you, you must cast down these imaginations. You can't let your mind run rampant with these wild thoughts and imaginations that are purposely being implanted into your mind. You can't do it. It says, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, which is very funny because usually knowledge and wisdom, these two words usually are connected. They have a connection. Speaking of divine connections, wisdom and knowledge. And so it's funny. It's saying, listen, don't let anything come up against the knowledge you have of God. Wise man, wise woman, wisdom and knowledge. So since you're so wise, don't let anything come up against the wisdom and knowledge that you have of God. Just like in the story, the wise men reached a new level of knowledge and enlightenment in the Lord because of the encounter with Jesus and the special encounter in the dream. So don't let what the enemy throws at you overcome what you already know, or listen, don't let it take the place of, that's a better way to put it, don't let it take the place of what you already know to be true that the Lord has revealed to you. What God has to say is the truth, no matter what. I don't care. I don't care what anybody has to say. I don't care how smart they are. I don't care what they say the cards gotta say about it. Don't care nothing about no darn tarot cards. I'm telling you, whatever the Lord says, that's what goes. I don't care what they say was in the crystal ball. I don't care what they said was in their psychic reading of the day. I don't care what they said about your zodiac sign. Oh, well, your zodiac for the month says, if you try to pursue this relationship, it's gonna be bad. So, hush. hush what the enemy has to say, trying to control you by outer sources other than the Lord. So cast these things down. Don't let it exalt itself above the knowledge of God. And watch this. And bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. You have to bring these thoughts into captivity. You have to make it be bound up. You got to bind it up. You listen. When these thoughts enter in and they try to rest in you, these bad thoughts that make you think twice about what's in store for you from the Lord, listen. Become a police officer in your own mind and just get the handcuffs and arrest those thoughts. That's the best way I know to explain it. Handcuff them and send them to jail. Send them to thought prison. Send them to their own. Tell it to go back to where it came from. It's got to go back to the pits of hell. Listen. Nope. You just got to keep giving it the nope. Because you cannot give it a yep on anything. You just can't do it. You cannot let the gates of hell prevail. You've got to shut the gates on these thoughts. Take them into captivity. Do not let them reign in your mind, because it will. Bring it to captivity. Now, with that said, going to 1 Peter, this is the last place. When the enemy brings in these thoughts and these imaginations, you have to cast them down. But when it comes to your own personal worries or thoughts or concerns, this is what you do about that. 1 Peter 5 verse 7 says, casting all your cares upon him, for he careth for you. Talking about God. We see that in the verse before it. Cast your care. See, you got to cast down, strike down, rebuke and denounce and renounce the thoughts of the enemy. But when it comes to your own cares, your own thoughts that you're battling with, you have to cast those down, or cast those unto the Lord, or as we like to say it, cast it down or lay it down at the feet of Jesus. You've got to give it over to the Lord. You can't spend, hours on end just overthinking, overanalyzing, trying to figure it all out. Being worried about what this person's going to say, what that person's going to say, what they're going to do. You've got to simply put, you have got to cast these thoughts down and cast your cares unto the Lord. It's not meant for you to handle it by yourself, is the point. So, with that said, if you're in that position of being the wise man, let me say this, and I'll end this. Here's what I was thinking about, because I was already talking about the three and the three, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, and then the three wise men. If you're in the position of the three wise men, it looks like you've got a decision to make. And the decision to make is pretty obvious. Or what option to take is pretty obvious. Either you can pick 1, 3 and 1, or the other 3 and 1. What do I mean? Well, Herod, he was his own worst enemy. But more specifically, and this is what I realized getting ready for this message, this is what came to me. His soul was his own worst enemy. And as I've explained before, your soul is made up of your mind, your will, and your emotions. So it's 3 things in one. It's a trinity, a triunity, 3 coming together in unity to make one. So his inner trinity, you're probably already figuring out where I'm going with this. His inner trinity was his worst enemy. So here's what I mean. He hears about Jesus, and what happens is his mind, right? Mind, will, and emotions, which makes up the soul. His mind starts thinking and overanalyzing and going into overdrive, thinking, oh no, I can't have this. This is a threat to me. I got to put a stop to this. So his mind, which is really ran by the enemy, the devil, is just bombarded with the thoughts and the imaginations that Satan has put into him, because he's not casting them down. See what I'm saying? So his mind is running rampant. And so with what's going on in his mind, his feelings and his emotions about what is to come gets the best of him. He's feeling some type of way. He's getting a little sensitive about his little position as king. And so because of that, because of how he feels, and because of his insecurities and his paranoidness about it, he comes up with his own plan or his own will. There's the other part: mind, will, and emotions. So he comes up with his own plan or will that is contrary to the will of God. Because like I said, God's trying to bring life and life more abundant. Herod's wanting to bring death to the one that's trying to bring life and life more abundant. So his mind, his will, his emotions, his inner trinity is his worst enemy. And what's in him is going to come out of him through words to try to get into you. In other words, the things that the enemy has spoken into him, into his soul, that has consumed his soul, he's going to try to speak it, use that person. The enemy's going to use that Herod, that vessel, to now speak those things into you. He's just transporting the information that he's put into the Herod into you now. And so with that said, you can either choose to follow the Trinity of Herod, what his soul desires, or you can follow the heavenly Trinity. And we know what that means. God, our God, the God of the Bible, the one true living God, we know he is a Trinity because he's God, Son, Holy Spirit. God the Father, which is in heaven. You've got the Son, Jesus Christ, the one that we are saved through, because no one comes to the Father except but through him. So he's our Savior. So Father, Son, and then the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God, or the Holy Ghost. So 3 in 1. So you've got the Trinity of the enemy, or you've got the heavenly Trinity, the one that created you, the one that has this perfect plan and divine connection for you that's going to make your life so amazing. Or you can give in to Herod and stay at a standstill and keep living miserably and living this bland life and just coasting through thinking, well, what if? Or man, I wish I had taken that risk. Or man, I wish I had taken the time to get to know these people instead of being afraid of what others were going to think or say if I had made that connection with that person. Don't continue to spend your life being full of regrets and what ifs. That's the Herod. That's the enemy. Cast all that junk down, because if you don't, it's going to get all up in you. And then you're going to end up being a Herod to someone else. All right, I think I've made my points. I think I've said all that I need to say. It's pretty simple. All you got to do is do what the Lord has for you and not listen to the enemy. I thank you all for listening. I'm going to pray us out of here. Heavenly Father, I thank you for another time to minister another word, Lord. I really feel like this message is pretty special compared to many that I've done. I believe that there's someone or some people that someone special. They've got to hear this. Someone really is about to have a life-changing, a real a real life-changing moment. They're about to have a life-changing divine connection that will propel their life into something amazing. No more of what's mediocre. No more of the simple, mundane, bland, typical, expected, predictable. No more of that, but a life that is not just being alive, but a life that's life and life more abundant. That which you promised. Somebody's in for something big. I know it. All they've got to do, and I'm hoping and believing that they catch this word, but I'm hoping and believing that they also really take heed, that they have the ears to hear this message, but that they also have the heart to receive this, and that they do not let the seeds that are being planted through this message fall by the wayside, that they don't just let it fall all out of them, but that they keep it stored in their hearts, and that they believe it to the fullest, and that they trust in you fully, Lord. And when the Herods reveal themselves, those who need this message will have a braveness, a newfound boldness that they didn't even know they had in them. A boldness that's from you, God. Not their own boldness, but a boldness that's from you. But it's gonna feel like it's just coming from within, from somewhere they didn't even know about. And they'll have the boldness, the braveness, the tenacity to shut down the words of the enemy, to shut down the Herods of their lives, and to say, you know what? It's my time. I've lived for everyone else. I've lived up to everybody else's expectations to the best of my abilities. I've played these roles. I've played the role. I did the dance and I sung the song. And I walked and talked the way I was told to. And I put on this performance for everybody and acted like I was happy when I really wasn't. But now is my time to rise up. Now is my time, like a phoenix from the ashes. Now is my time to fly, to soar. It's my time to shine. Listen, no longer do I want to be in somebody else's shadows. It's time that I rise up and truly live the life that God has for me. And I know that I won't ever fulfill it until I take that step of faith and say, okay, Lord, I'm ready to be who you've created me to be, and I'm ready to walk into the destiny you have for me. Lord, I'm believing right now that when somebody receives this, that right there is what they're going to say within themselves. They're going to say, it's my time. They're going to say, I'm ready. They're going to say, I'm tired of playing the roles for everybody. I'm ready to do what it is that God has for me to do. And Lord, I'm believing for that right now. Lord, I thank you. I give you all the praise, the glory, and the honor. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.